Yeah, time is running out to file your taxes. You have just 10 days left to get your information into the IRS. Here today to talk about tax filing is Mark Stieber, Chief Tax Officer at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service. He is also taking your tax questions. You can text those to the number on your screen there, 336-379-5775. All right, we're going to kickstart it right here. What is the average refund size that people can expect?
Well, good news is for the seventh week in a row, the IRS just released some data earlier today. It's about $3,000 for federal tax filers, and that's up about 5% over last year. So more people are seeing more money, kind of in alignment with pre-pandemic amounts. There were some changes there that moved it all around. But for right now, bigger refunds, 3 out of 4 folks are getting them, and they're averaging about $3,000.
Ooh, that is a nice piece of change. Okay, if you need to, how can you file extensions?
Well, extensions are automatic under the United States law. Some states have some add-ons, but basically you file a Form 4868 by midnight on the tax day. There's no going past that and filing it after the deadline. I was asked that question the other day. And so what's the point of a deadline? So you have to file either your tax return or an extension by midnight on the 15th, which is coming up, as you say, in about 10 days, 6 hours, and 27 minutes. But who's counting? And so it's important to note that an extension is not an extension of time to pay. Some people think, well, I'm going to owe. I had a good side hustle, so I'm going to need to push that off. An extension is only an extension of time to file your paperwork, not to pay your taxes. So if you think you're going to owe, you need to see a pro and find out what your other options are, installment plan or things like that. But just kicking it down the road with an extension doesn't relieve you from having to file and pay on time. And the worst thing you can do is just ignore the deadline. That gets you into all kind of troubles at the federal, state, probably your employer with a background check. Do not miss the deadline.
That is really good advice. Okay, what are some common myths and mistakes people are making this season?
The number one I see this year, and I see it every year, and it's kind of a byproduct of social media and some of those influencers, is my taxes are simple. I don't have any real complexity. I'm going to do it myself. And I'm completely okay with you doing it yourself, but I can promise you, no matter who you are, unless you're that elf riding on that unicorn down the rainbow, your taxes are not simple. Not high income, not low income, and not no income. There are deductions, there's credits, there's elections. I see it every year. And so in their haste to get their taxes done, I see people just being done with it. And they may leave off a deduction or a credit or a benefit. And they sometimes think that the IRS is going to fix that on the back end and just send you more money. No, wrong, incorrect. You leave off a benefit, it stays off. So don't shortcut your tax filing obligation by just getting it done and leaving off some deductible expenses if you've got a side hustle, calculating your basis correctly if you're a virtual capital or virtual crypto investor or whatever the deduction might be. 1 in 5 skip the earned income credit every year, and that adds up to billions of dollars, and that's just unfortunate because the tax system is not one that self-corrects later and gets you caught back up with money that you're due. Leave it off, it stays off.
Oh, that is good advice too. Okay, how long does it typically take to get a refund?
Well, that depends on a lot of things. Most importantly, the accuracy and the completeness of your tax return. So that's a great question, which leads to 2 answers. First of all, no guesstimating, no estimating, no kind of getting it close like you might with horseshoes or some other elements. You have to match the data that the IRS has. Now, that won't necessarily get you audited or in trouble, but if you're just guesstimating and it doesn't match, the IRS may take a lot longer to process your refund. Now, if you electronically file and you electronically deposit your refund, both which are best practices, we're seeing 9 out of 10 refunds come in 21 days or less, and in many cases even less than that. But it really depends on electronic filing, electronic depositing, and making sure you have a complete and accurate tax return and your data matches the IRS data.
Good to know too. Okay, so a big topic here in North Carolina is sports betting. It's now legal in North Carolina, but those winnings are also taxed. So what do people need to know about that?
Well, it's big down here in Florida where I'm from too. We did this a year ago. And quite frankly, there's nothing really new here other than there's a lot more convenience. There's a lot more apps that you can do on your phone, and there's a lot more ways to do your betting, whether it be sports betting or what have you. But the rules have always been the same. If you have winnings and if you have income, even if you find a bag of money, technically that's income that goes on your tax return. And there is no de minimis rule. There's not some less than $600. There's not some I did it in an office pool. There's not some friendly poker game. If you have income, it's supposed to be reported. Now, the new rules and the allowance in North Carolina and other states, they've gotten a little more official on it. That says, basically, if you win more than $600, then the establishment has a responsibility to let you know and the IRS know that you have some of this money and it ought to be on your tax return. And you'll get a W-2G, G as in gaming, if you have those amounts. But be clear, even if you have $1, technically, if you're arguing with your friend at the bar at the restaurant, that's supposed to be on your return. Now, morality and ethics notwithstanding, it's taxable. When you get more than 600, the government will know, and then you need to really put it on there because then they'll be looking for that money. If you get more than that, say 5,000, then there's some mandatory withholding. They'll actually hold a portion of your winnings back and go ahead and prepay some of your taxes because they don't want you to forget about that later.
Smart advice here. Okay, we are continuing to take your questions so we can get them answered as we get closer to that tax deadline. We'll be back and be answering more.